G'day folks, what is going on? In this one, I want to talk to you about 7 ways that you can refine your overall ecosystem that you're building for your information business, all different elements of it, using actual data and information so that you're not guessing. I see a couple of things with people that I work with and even with people that I don't work with, just through observation and experience. One is they aren't constantly refining offer, overall brand messaging, content, ads. They aren't actually evolving those with time. And then the second one is maybe they are, and they're making tweaks and they're making changes to their messaging, to their offer, to their content, to their ads, but it's not data driven. It's kind of like guessing, right? Maybe it's a somewhat educated guess, which you definitely can do, but it's much more advantageous if we use actual data. Okay. And so I want to talk you through in this one 7 different ways that I do this in my own business so that you can take this and run with it. Okay. I've got them listed out here in front of me over a couple of different pages, and let's rip through them so you can take it and use it. Any one of these can have a massive, massive impact. If you end up layering a few, if not all of them together, it'll have a really big impact. Okay. So the first one is, right, and this one's pretty obvious, but what emails or posts get people to reply/reach out and actually join? Okay. The other way that you could look at this is what email/post get a lot of people to reach out. You're obviously getting closer to a really strong message, but in particular, we want to pay attention to the ones that get people to reach out, regardless of volume, and actually buy. Okay. Now, a little extra step on this you can also think about is, what posts or emails did you send or post in the 3 to 5 days before that if you got multiple people to join? Okay, so if you had like one email that got a couple of people to drop in, like I had 5 people join the academy in one day last week, and so I'm paying a lot of attention to, well, what did I send? Not just that email, but what did I send in the kind of days and weeks leading up to that? Right? What messaging was in that series of emails? Because we can gather data from the exact email that gets them to reach out, because there's power in that, because that's actually the thing that made them step forward and then ultimately step over the threshold to becoming a client. But we can't disregard the kind of pressure that was built up over the posts or the emails, depending on how you create and how you sell, in the lead up to that final one. So definitely look at those as well. And you can look at them individually, but you can also look at it as a series. Okay. Now, we live in an amazing time with AI, and it is very, very powerful. So what I want you to do is I want you to take these emails individually, collectively, give it context around like what result it yielded, the timeline when they were sent, the platform they were on, the messages, the replies that came back, any questions that came back, and give it your offer as well. And then if you've got any like detailed lead magnets, right? Like I've got my playbook that a lot of people come through either cold or through remarketing, or they watch these videos and they go check it out. Like whenever I log in here, there's people reading this, and this is my overall model. And so typically when I'm feeding this stuff into AI, I'll give it my offer and I'll give it my playbook, and then I'll ask it for refinements to those 2 things based on these emails. And I will look to then go and create more emails like that, right? I can also get it to give me ideas for YouTube videos based on the key language points, angles from the email or post that got people over the edge and the series that ultimately led up to it. Okay, so that's the first one, is pay attention to what actually gets people to move, and then think about all of the different ways that you can spin that. How can you tweak your offer? How can you tweak your lead magnets? How can you tweak your ads? How can you tweak your posts and do more emails and posts like that in the future? What YouTube videos should you go and create in order to really hammer that angle further? Okay, this seems simple and it seems obvious, but I can tell you a lot of people do not do it. Either that they're not aware of it or they're just ignoring the data. Okay, and this used to be a little bit, it's never really been particularly hard, but we've got this massive shortcut now where we can give AI all of this information. We can give it our offer, we can give it our lead magnets, we can give it our ads, we can give it our YouTube video transcripts, and then we can show it the stuff that's actually working and be like, hey, can you give me the intersection of all of these things so that I can do more of it? Okay, because what you're starting to do, and this is why this is really important to understand, that this your business should be a closed loop. Okay, let me just log in here. Hold up. Your business should be a closed loop such that every time it runs, it gets better and more efficient. All right. And so I talk about this model a lot. And whether you're using this and if we build this together or not, this is my advice stands, which is you ultimately want it to feed back on itself. You ultimately want it to compound. You ultimately want that word of mouth really kicking in. And when we have it as this closed loop, then each time a client is signed, particularly the really good clients that you end up working with for the long term, we want to pay attention to that data so that we can take that data and we can feed it into the top of the funnel to bring in more new people with that same proven messaging, and we can use it to talk to our existing people in a way that is clearly resonating. Okay, really, really important. So that's the first one, right? Seems pretty obvious, but a lot of people miss it. Let's talk about the second one. All right, what free resources have you thrown out that got a good response, plus people actually joined your program, paid you for one-to-one, whatever it may be, off the back of them? Okay, create more like this, right? I'll give you some examples in a second. Turn them into opt-ins, run ads, right? The hook worked, that value worked, that insight worked, run with it and get more juice out of it. Okay, I did a video on this, which I can link below, but recently I did a, what is it? Is it 10 emails? I have to find that link. I recently did a training on 10 different emails that each made 2,000 to 6,000 in coaching sales, right? I put that out as a free resource. I can probably pull it up in Google Docs. Where is it here? This was the video that I did. I'll link this below. But I had this training where I did, and I did a video with it on 10 different emails that made 2 to 6K in coaching sales. Right now, I put that out on my profile. I put that as in my Facebook profile, on my Instagram, with a simple little video, and in my Facebook group. And it got a really positive response, and people actually joined the academy, right? So then I don't just let that piece of gold go to waste. What I do, I spun it up into a new, what I call front door. And I've got another video like literally on this topic that I'll link below so you can go check it out, right? But I spun it up into a new front door into the ecosystem. No, it's 10-emails-training, right? So now new people are joining my list every day. I haven't rapidly scaled this yet, but we've got like 10 to 20 new people coming onto my list every day with this, because I know this resource hit a nerve because it got a bunch of people to reach out and it actually got people to join, right? So what resources have you put out there that actually worked? Okay, the other thing I can note is, well, if this worked, right, what's the core topic here? Well, it's talking about proven emails that actually made money and without these things. So then I can go and do something similar around automated emails, around different types of emails, around different email campaigns, around running emails to different segments of your list. Like I can take this core angle, which was just about 10 broadcast emails that went out to my whole list, and I could come up with 5 different lead magnets that play off a similar hook, not the same, but a similar hook. Clearly people liked the email angle. Clearly they like this whole without calls, without DMs, without a VSL, without a webinar angle. And clearly they like the fact that these are proven and actual examples, because most people are just talking about theory, right? So then what can I extract from that? Feed that evidence into AI and be like, hey, help me come up with more resource ideas. Help me spin this up into its own offer. Help me write copy for this, right? Like there's so much that we can extract from just putting out a free resource. I try to do one of these a week. Some weeks I get to it, some weeks that I don't. But it gives you so much gold back. And then when you find a winner, you can go and get more juice out of it. Okay, so that is the second one. The third one is ask every client that jumped in, what was it in your message, your model, your content, your ads, whatever it may be, that ultimately, your emails that ultimately got them over the line. Okay, so when I have a new client join, they go through a really comprehensive onboarding process when they jump into the academy, so that I can, it runs through a system, and then I get all the details from it, and then I literally sit down and film a Loom just like this here in the office, and give them a custom game plan to implement what is included in the academy. Most people say that's worth the entire investment alone because of the amount of clarity that it provides them. But one of those questions is, what was it that ultimately made you join? It is a piece of gold, okay? And once you start enrolling more clients, you just start stacking up all these answers, and it literally writes your content, your messaging, your offers. It writes it for yourself because your clients are telling you what to sell them on. Your clients are telling you what to market to them, because if it's worked for 10, it's probably going to work for 100, all right? So again, this one seems obvious, but so many people aren't asking their clients. Just layer it into an onboarding process. Okay, you should be gathering data from your clients when they jump in anyway. Either if you're doing a tailored, like customized plan, or even just so that you are deeply aware of the people that are coming on board. And then again, feed this into AI, right? And then get it to layer into your content, your emails, your offers, your lead magnets, and make sure that that messaging is all aligned and all congruent. Okay, I did another video, which I'll link below as well, about building in straight lines. And this is gold when it comes to engineering that straight line. Most people aren't building in a straight line, and it's making life way harder than it needs to be. So make sure you go check out that video after you watch this one, and then do this. Okay, so that's the third one. Like I said, if you do one of these, it's going to have a huge impact. If you do all of them, you're going to be shooting the lights out. All right, number 4, analyze the touch point journey that people go on so that you can engineer more of it. I did a video on this as well. I gave an example of quite a long touch point journey for someone who, over 6 months, multiple different touch points, and then ultimately became a client, right? For every client that comes on, I do this quick analysis myself because it is such a valuable exercise in order to see, okay, well, when did they opt in? What caused them to opt in? Was it a low ticket offer? Was it a lead magnet? And then between that point, when they came into my world, at least as far as I can see, and when they ultimately became a client, what actions did they take? What emails did they reply to? What questions did they ask? What remarketing ads did they engage with in terms of re-opting in to the list? What other things did they buy? And map that journey out, okay? If you start doing this for every client who comes on, you're going to start to notice common threads, okay? And I've got an example that popped up recently. I mentioned my playbook before, right? So I run ads to this. I run ads to this cold. And what I noticed was that people were coming through like a low ticket offer, and then they would opt in for this, and then they'd become a client because this is such a valuable resource and it gives so much clarity on the model, right? It's so congruent to what it is effectively is what we build inside the academy. And so what did I do? Well, I set up a remarketing ad that now follows people around who are already in my ecosystem to download this resource. And what's happening? More people are downloading it, and then they join. So when we pay attention to the actual path that people take to become a client, we can then engineer that path to happen more and more and more and more and more. This is also why it's really important to focus in on having one core offer, because if you're trying to go through this process of optimization for 5 different offers, it's really, really tricky. Okay, that's just a little side point there. All right, so that's the 4th one. The 5th one, okay, client questions equal content. What questions are your clients asking? Answer them in your marketing. Now, why would we want to do this? Okay, well, what actually gets people to move is if we can set off light bulbs for them. Right? The more light bulbs we can set off for them, the more that they're likely to move, the more wisdom that we can impart, the more clarity that we can give them. Okay. And so if your clients are asking these questions, your prospects probably have the same questions, right? So turn that into marketing, turn that into really high value marketing. All right. That is such an easy one to do. All right. And there's an extension of this in a second. Number 6, content inside equals content outside. So if you're doing coaching calls, if you're doing onboarding videos, keeping confidentiality on the table, if you are doing office hours sessions, if you have a Q&A thread, right? Any way that you can extract that content, be it a part of a video, be it voice clips, be it messages, be it comments, think, how can I turn these into videos, into ads, into posts, into emails? It's free content that you don't have to go and create, but even more important than that, it's content that is driven by people, aka your clients, who have already jumped in. Okay, and so if it's congruent with people who have already paid you, it's likely to be congruent with people who will pay you in the future. Okay, so make sure that you're extracting juice from the content inside your program externally and using it in your marketing. You'll see me do that on this channel. And then number 7 is similar to number 5 in terms of client questions being content. What questions are your leads asking? Again, this is like what you'll see if you're on my email list. You'll see me do this all the time. If a lead asks a question, right, you do 2 things: answer the question for that person, and then take that answer and spin that into an email and send it out to your list. As long as it's a reasonable and not a stupid question. Okay. What questions are they asking? Answer it for them, and then spin it up into an email, a post, a video, all 3. It's super easy content. It's very targeted content. And I can promise you, if one person has that question, multiple people have that question. And so if you can answer that and give those people clarity, you're very likely to be able to tip people over the edge. Okay. So that is 7 different ways that you can look at what's happening in your ecosystem, look at what's happening with your clients, gather really valuable data, like absolute gold that only you have access to, and then feed it back into the system. Okay, make this a very regular practice of identifying these pieces of information, identifying this feedback, and then looping it back into the system. It's really critical that you've got this one straight line running. It's really critical that it's focused towards one main offer, and it's really critical that you're extracting this gold and feeding it back in. This is how you build something that compounds every month, and the more you're making time your friend, because the more that this runs, the more output you get, the more valuable the input that you feed back into the system. Okay. If you want to simplify things so that you can do this and do this pretty easily, I would recommend that you check out the Academy. It's linked below. We can build all of this out. I'll put other videos and resources and stuff that you can check out below. But regardless of if we work together or not, whatever model that you're running, make sure that you're doing this. It's going to serve you really well. Okay, cheers.